Separated by coronavirus, travel restrictions are keeping some couples worlds apart. An Oklahoma State graduate and soon-to-be mom hasn't seen her fiance since early March. As Fox 25's Emily Collins reports, she's now days away from giving birth and feeling more isolated than ever.
One couple, two continents.
Hey babe, it's me. I just want to let you know that I'm thinking of you all the time and I'm so proud of you.
The voice on the end of the line is Sean Donovan. Donovan lives in Dublin, Ireland. His fiancée, Corsie Crumpler, is an Oklahoma State graduate who calls Wichita Falls, Texas, home.
So from March 3rd through the 8th, he stayed with me. And I remember on the 8th, was the last day that I saw him.
They've now spent more than 4 long months apart.
Look at these, babe.
And are days away from welcoming their first child together.
Sean has never felt the baby kick.
Due to U.S. travel restrictions, Corsie will have to undergo labor and delivery in the States alone.
I regret not jumping on this sooner and maybe gaining a little more traction a little earlier on, but we had no way of knowing. And we've been fighting this. I've been fighting this hard for probably since mid-June.
The pair are among a number of separated, unmarried couples rallying on social media for changes to the U.S. and European Union's travel restrictions, using the hashtags "Love is not tourism" and "Love is essential."
There are thousands of women that are actually dealing with this. American families, spouses, people that just can't get into their own countries for whatever reason.
Looking back at when Corsie and Sean first met, Corsie, a young flight attendant visiting Ireland, was in the right place at the right time when Sean came along.
She was in Ireland with her friends for, well, it was a day really.
They spoke for hours, only to reconnect days later over the phone. This would eventually lead to dozens of visits back and forth from Ireland and the U.S. Travels that now feel like distant memories, with interaction limited to daily calls, filled with fretting.
Hey babe, I actually just spoke to the lawyer.
Over when they will reunite and Sean will be able to meet his son.
It is frustrating, the one time you're about to have a baby with someone you love, and something like this happens.
In a proclamation signed by President Trump on March 14th, a person is exempt if they are the parent or legal guardian of a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, provided that the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident is unmarried and under the age of 21. But according to the U.S. Embassy in Ireland, because Corsie and Sean's baby is not yet born, Sean doesn't qualify.
It kind of feels kind of surreal that it's happening, but at the same time, I am finding peace knowing that I can go within a day or two later.
Corsie feels differently.
So we called to inquire about, what constitutes as life, because according to the current administration, life starts in the womb. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my argument that I was trying to push.
But so far, that argument has fallen on deaf ears, both at the state and federal levels. As for now, Corsie and Sean's focus,
Let's see it, Sean.
Myself.
First click.
Is delivering a healthy baby boy. But Corsie's fight for answers is far from over.
They haven't heard the last of me, and they're not going to. Whether they make it into office in November again or not, I'm far from done.
In Oklahoma City, Emily Collins, Fox 25 News.
Corsie is due this Sunday. If current exemptions remain, Sean will be allowed to travel to the States once the baby is born.
Love is not tourism. It's a movement that has swept the globe during the pandemic as couples found themselves separated by travel bans with no end in sight.
Fox 25's Emily Collins revisits the story of a couple now reunited by the birth of their son.
It's been nearly 3 months since we last heard from Corsie Crumpler and her fiancé, Sean Donovan.
To say that they're just not prioritizing people would be like a criminal embellishment because it's almost like they don't care, which is alarming.
At the time, the expecting couple had spent months apart. Corsi in Texas and Sean trapped in his home country of Ireland. Each day was spent desperately trying to jump through diplomatic hoops in hopes of being reunited for the birth of their son.
He's gonna start screaming like as soon as we get in.
Here is the couple today, together on American soil.
Sorry, Papa. He came running up. I just broke down. I was so happy to see him. It had been 5 months since I had seen him. And even before that, I hadn't seen him very much. So he missed the whole pregnancy.
Sean also missed the birth on July 22nd, forced to watch instead through FaceTime.
Seeing Corsi there and not being able to just be there and hold her hand and, you know, just talk to her and encourage her. It was difficult, but at the same time, it was the best we had at the time, you know.
It wasn't until baby Taus officially made his debut and Sean had his birth certificate in hand that officers at the Dublin airport would finally let him through.
On the plane now. Good to see you.
Bit of work to get the paperwork over to get to me, which they don't really do on a daily basis. It was kind of an exception.
Exceptions have been hard to come by, and as Sean's time in the States draws to an end, the couple is preparing for yet another fight to remain together.
He's not my boyfriend. We're not trying to go take pictures in front of the Statue of Liberty. We have a family. And so now we're fighting to keep our family together because they're gonna send him home on October 20th.
Sean has filed for a K-1 visa application, known as a fiancé visa. But due to the pandemic, all processing of documents is at a standstill. The hope now is that the couple will be able to at least secure a passport for the baby, allowing them to return to Ireland as a family.
It'll be a blow if I have to go home alone, just personally, and then for my family themselves.
By and large, just the next step is getting to Ireland, and we are only allowed to stay there. Taus and I are only allowed to stay there for 90 days.
And if Sean still doesn't have his K-1 visa at the end of that 90 days, the family could very well be separated once again, which is a reality Corsi refuses to entertain.
I won't split up my family. That's not a threat. That's not me trying to be some kind of renegade against the government. That is a promise that every mother should make.
Because love is not tourism, and family is not expendable. For Fox 25, I'm Emily Collins.
U.S. travel restrictions remain in place for several regions, including Ireland. That is, unless a foreign citizen is granted a national interest exception. In this case, Sean could enter after the birth of their baby because he's considered the legal parent of a U.S. citizen.